Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I wish to welcome you. I am now getting some feedback that the presentation, the YouTube streaming was without sound. I'm so very sorry about that because repeating it, I think, would not be very interesting for you. So maybe at the end, we could try and show it again, or for those of you wishing to watch the film with sound, we would have to direct you to the YouTube presence where the film is in its own. I'm so very sorry. That kind of makes for a slightly different dynamic. But I will start and proceed as planned. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Artsy for hosting the Atlantic World Art Fair. We are delighted to be a part of that. Thank you to our lead sponsor, Butterfield, for believing in the project and supporting us the way they did. Thank you to all my colleagues. We are 9 galleries participating in this art fair. And we are Black Pony Gallery from Bermuda, Frame Center Gallery from Jamaica, Gallery Alma Blau from Curacao, Olympia Gallery from Jamaica, Readytex Art Gallery from Suriname, Sourgrass from Barbados, Susie Wong Presents from Jamaica, and Turn from the Bahamas. But I would like to put a special light on Lisa Howie from Black Pony Gallery. I would love to applaud her for her concept for the Atlantic World Art Fair and for her courage to actually move forward with this initiative and reach out to all of us. It's an amazing presentation on a world forum, which for us Caribbean entrepreneurs and Caribbean women, especially in the arts, is a huge milestone. We represent together 74 artists who are creative on a steady basis in 22 countries, representing even more if we consider each artist's heritage. We represent the world, but this is something we Caribbean people are used to, and for us it's almost normal. There are 283 artworks in our booths altogether. So I invite you and hope you can make the time to visit artsy.net/Atlantic World Art Fair, visit our booths, watch what artists in the Caribbean are doing these days, and be part of their amazing journey. I am Monique Nushaya. I lead the Readytex Art Gallery initiative. I am so honored to be working with 18 amazing artists and so many amazing people that work together with us, professionals that give us wings. Our booth in the Atlantic World Art Fair has a specific theme and is centered around the concept of Alacondre. And I invite you to join us online on our social media presences and to do some study on the matter. We are always prepared to send you more information should you like to read more and hear more about this. I invite you as we move forward to leave comments, questions, and contributions by text in our chat box. We will try to answer whatever we have the opportunity within the time frame to do so. Let me allow me to introduce our guests, which are Rosie Gordon-Wallace of Diaspora Vibe Cultural and Arts Incubator, Dr. Alex Pierre, resident scholar of Spelman College, and Kurt Nahar, visual artist. Please. Oh, you come sit with me. Hi, Rosie. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Monique.
Rosie Gordon Wallace is a colleague, is my friend, is a partner in projects. In the years that I have come to know her, I have learned how she connects, inspires, and leads artists, colleagues, and collectors from the Caribbean, from its diaspora. And what Rosie does so very well is make you feel at home and make you feel welcome. And this is so very important because people need, if people need to want to know more about each other, they have to really like each other too. And this is this is very important. Dr. Pierre is resident scholar at Spelman College, and he has prepared a presentation, and I have been privy to see the pictures on his PowerPoint presentation, and it makes me so eager to hear what he will have to say after Rosie. And then Kurt Nahar, I have been working with Kurt Nahar for over 18 years. Kurt is a hardworking, steadfast, ethical artist, true to what he wants to say visually. And I must say that when you work in such a confrontational style and shocking in the Caribbean, this is really very difficult because we Caribbean people do not like to confront. We are small communities. We don't want to upset each other because tomorrow you see each other in a different way and on the road, and you don't want to have bothered anybody too hard. But he has stayed true to what his vision of his artistry. And what is so amazing that while his tongue is very sharp in his artwork, he is a very humorous, kind human being. And I take immense pride in being part of his artistic journey. I want to pass the presentation over to Rosie.
Thank you, Monique. First of all, I want to thank Atlantic Art Fair and Artsy for this really important opportunity. We complain in the Caribbean that we don't get seen. And as you know, Monique, my favorite saying is that we are accidentally ignored. And when you called me, I had not heard about this opportunity. And when you called me and asked if I would be willing to share the work that Diaspora Cultural Arts Incubator has done with Kurt, whom I affectionately call Harry, and I will tell you what that means afterwards. It is really a pleasure to be here. I am so proud to be on this platform with you, Monique, and with Readytex Gallery, because like me, you have been in the trenches doing this work for artists, most of the times unrecognized, and it's a real joy. Of course, Dr. Alex Pierre is our resident scholar, and both Kurt, Harry, and I, and Alex, all three of us, we have worked together in the Caribbean. Folks, I'm Rosie Gordon Wallace, and I live in Miami-Dade, where we try to work with emerging artists and artists from the diaspora, from Latin America all the way over to Suriname. Those of you who have watched me work know that I have a tender spot in my heart for Suriname. When we went to Suriname on our international cultural exchange and met Monique, Harry had spoken about us, and Monique, the owner and founder of Readytex Gallery and / museum in Suriname, welcomed us, all 15 of us, to her stable. And we have worked steadily since then. I think that this journey, this looking to the global south, is a really important step for us that live in the diaspora. We have traveled to France and Barbados. You can read the text. But today, the focus, the spotlight, the stadium lights are on Suriname, the work that's being done. And in particular, I want to thank Harry's, and it's going to happen throughout the whole presentation, folks. Harry equals Kurt, and Kurt equals Harry. That his colleagues, his artistic colleagues in Suriname, I know they are proud of him. The spotlight is on Harry, but the spotlight really is on the work that you artists have been doing in Suriname. So I want to go ahead and start answering my own questions. How did I meet Kurt Nahar? I met Kurt Nahar at Edna Manley College of the Visual Arts and Performing Arts. Next slide, please. This is Kurt working diligently. And this is a really wonderful image of him. This is how I remember Kurt. This is how I think of him in Miami. Always working, always working. And folks, please remember that. We have to do the work. So I met Kurt at Edna Manley. We went to Jamaica. We, meaning Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator, went to Jamaica. And we were hosted by Revolution Gallery. Carol Campbell, the founder of Revolution Gallery, invited us. And we were co-hosted by Edna Manley College of the Performing Arts. Dr. Pierre has also traveled with us to Edna Manley. But I want to also say that when we were there, Patrona Morrison was the director of the visual arts. And folks, you can't do this work in the Caribbean unless people welcome you. And it is always a joy to work with Edna Manley as we have continued over the years. So Annie Hamilton, one of the lecturers at Edna Manley at the time, called me and said, there is this special little artist, him come from Suriname, and he's not going to be able to go home this summer. Can you host him in Miami? And at that time, when I met Kurt Nahar, we struggled to say Kurt. My Jamaican tongue couldn't say it. So we affectionately rechristened him and called him Harry. And it is in this journey, this is the only, at that time, Bachelor of Arts program in the Caribbean. Edna Manley has been holding that torch and carrying that burden for artists throughout the region. And so for Harry to leave Suriname and come to Jamaica to study is a big deal. I have to mention Michael Elliott here, Harry, because we don't one hand can't clap. We don't do this alone. No. And when you send your children to our countries, I'm talking to parents now, people take care of them. And so Michael Elliott's family embraced Harry while he was in Jamaica. And it is important for you to remember that as we talk through the presentation. So Harry's work, and I'm going to read from his statement because his statement is so profound. Harry says, with my art, I choose to confront people with a number of critical subjects playing out in society today. And that goes to the point that Monique makes. His art has a double-edged machete and razor blade. As an artist coming from a small but culturally diverse country and community, studying in Jamaica and traveling to and participating in projects internationally have significantly increased my awareness with regards to the subjects of identity, equality, and race relations. When Harry and I talk, as we have continued this journey with Diaspora Vibe, we talk about race in the Caribbean as it appears in a different way. And he always asks me what it is and how it is that I am able to live in the United States where the race lens, a race card is a heavy card. So this Harry also does through his work. He says, my recent works are therefore an exploration into identity, as you have seen in the video, into all the critical factors and social narratives, past and present, that either shape or undermine it. And he quotes Remy by saying, where waters segregate us, but also bring us to the door of no return. We just came off 3 museum insertions of Kurt's work. We started at the Cochrane, then we went to the Harvey B. Gann Center, and then we ended up in the Miami Design District May 31st. And Harry's work was, one of his pieces was called The Door of No Return. Harry, I am telling you, people stood at that piece and shed tears. And so I want you to know that the work that you have been doing collectively all these years is not in vain. You have been communicating in a very potent way the politics and the narrative and the history of slavery and the trauma that we live with these histories in our bodies. So next slide, please. So what I'm going to do is take you through a journey, because the journey started, and in the international cultural exchange, what happens is we come to the country, Monique welcomes us to Suriname. There's a little nervousness. There's Ada, there's Cassandra, there's Sri, everybody's watching, and then we open the work. And this was at the hall when we had our first exhibition. And as you can see, the people in the t-shirts, except for me, are all coming from the United States. And there is Monique kind of watching, kind of skeptically watching us as we laid out the work. What has happened is when we work in the region, we do not come to inform, we come to be informed. And we were so welcomed by the narrative and cultural similarities with the issues that we have in Miami. So here we are getting ready. Notice the suitcase, getting ready to blend the work from the Miami artists with the Surinamese artists who have now become family. Next slide, please. This is to show you what our international cultural exchange faces look like. We are the Caribbean. And in this particular image, we have African Americans, Jackie Arnett here. We have Cubans. We have Trinidad and Tobago, Isaiah, who I thank so much for this PowerPoint. We have Aisha Tandy Rebel. We have Jide Rosanade Gamendia from Cuba, and Kurt Nahar. The journey through the Caribbean, and I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is Guadeloupe. This is Guadeloupe, right? This is Guadeloupe. Next, please. We're going to go through this a little faster. What I'm trying to show you here is what happens when we come to the region. Monique is smiling because every time I come to Suriname, I am gifted by her these wraps that Surinamese women and men wear. And when I travel, I take them with me. I get goose pimples just talking about it, Monique. And we use them as tablecloths. We set the table, and in our communal conversations, we do it on Surinamese tapestry and artistry, coming from Readytex Gallery. And so next slide, please. Here it is, Kurt, when we travel, the artists that travel with us are asked to share their practice, not in an instructional way, but in a practical way where they can talk about materials, where we can share how it is that the work is realized from the head, the imagination, through the heart to the hands. And here on this particular slide, we have Harry presenting at the AWAF Hotel in Guadeloupe to a really prestigious group of people who attended. And there is Simone Pierre, Alex's sister, who hosted us that evening as well. Kurt is a very intuitive presenter. When Kurt presents, Kurt talks about how he gathers his materials. What I find interesting is you can put Kurt on a backyard and he will find something to make art with. This is because he's a data practitioner. And in data practitioners, they can use a thimble and make an installation. Kurt uses magazines, he uses fauna and flora, he uses coffee, he uses cotton. And of course, as you saw in the video, those beautifully carved calabash bowls. Next slide, please. When we went to Guadeloupe on our last trip, I think this is 2020, right, Harry? 2020. Yes. And I have to say to you that Alex Pierre is from Guadeloupe. But I am trying to show you what happens when we're invited to come to the countries to do these international exchanges. Harry was selected to do a one-day installation where we dropped him off at the airport and he had to do an installation. Here is an example of his collage using his magazines, talking about wake up and live. Now, this is 2020 when America is in a really conflicted space. We don't know whether we're coming or we're going. And here we are in Guadeloupe talking about, with a Surinamese artist, telling people to wake up and live. I cannot tell you how profound these images of what the global South looks like turned up in Guadeloupe. It was really well done. And what Harry does is typical of a collage artist, is that he works in layers. So here he's painting the words, but on the actual collage, which was vinyl, he had cut and pasted. And remember now, when we got to Guadeloupe, Harry, you didn't know you were going to get to do this. So this is what I'm talking about, an artist who works intuitively, but constantly poking us to be politically alive, to stay woke, folks. We got to stay woke. And this was in a time when we needed to hear this. So next slide, please. We talk about contemporary art in the Caribbean, and folks in America and in England and in the rest of the developed world. And I have to I'm saying developed world in a after coming off a humbling year with COVID. Who is developed? I'm not quite sure. The contemporary language looks like this, and we are Caribbean. This work didn't come from the Whitney. This work didn't come from the Met. This work came from Suriname, from the hands of a Caribbean artist, using objects to speak about color, to speak about hair, to speak about bleaching, to speak about how you place yourself in community. All of this using the data methodology to share in a contemporary way. So, yes, we do flowers and bananas and plants, and we do them well, and I love them. I love the colors, I love the flora and fauna of the Caribbean. But we have a really particular, unique contemporary language, and this is what Harry has taught us and shown us. Kurt, when I show this work here in the States, we get the ahs and the oohs, because in our museums, a lot of times, Black and brown bodies are not ascribed to this kind of language. And so I'm excited, as you know, with your work. Next slide, please. We talked a little bit, I mentioned intersectionality, diaspora art from the Creole City. This is not about me today. This is about showing you the 28 artists that participated in this 3 inserted exhibition coming all the way from the Cochrane in Washington, D.C. in 2019, in a time when our country was in real uproar. Kurt Nahar traveled with us from D.C. to the Harvey B. Gantt Center, where I have to thank Michelle Parchment for introducing us to David and Bonita there. And then we ended up in the Miami Design District, where Claire Bruckell and Craig Robbins invited us to have this amazing 138-piece exhibition that Kurt's work brought physical tears when people looked at his work. So Kurt, this is a journey that we have been on. Next slide, please, and I'm almost done. Everybody knows that in the Caribbean, you rally around your flag. I mean, there's just no way about it. No matter where you go, you could say you're a Caribbean person, everybody's looking for their flag. So what we did with intersectionality is, and I can find Kirk's name. Where's your name, Kirk? Can you see your name with your flag?
Yes.
Proudly representing Suriname. Yes. And proudly representing the language that is so difficult for me to pronounce to make your name sound lovely. So I have to call you Harry. But yes, in this journey in the Caribbean, I could not have done it without the partnership, neither of us. And what we try to do, Harry, as you know, is to continue to support the work, to move the needle from emerging to mid-career to mature. So I think you're about mid-career now, Kurt. The work needs to have some economic value. The work needs to bring back some reward for this hard work that we've done for the past 18 years together. Last slide, please. Next slide. And here is Harry in DC, proudly pointing out the Suriname flag that we all rallied around. Next slide, please. This is the installation that traveled through the three spaces, the door of no return. Is this the door of no return? Yes, it is. Right, Harriet? Yeah.
Yes.
Where we had the three calabash. It's not, you probably can't see it, where we had the three offerings, maroon to the maroon tradition, the three calabashes, with one with cotton, one with sugar, and one with coffee. Folks, sugar is made with blood. And we know the sacrifice that our ancestors have done, not only in Jamaica, but in Suriname and in the world, to provide free labor so that our economies can be flourishing now. We paid tribute to the maroon culture here. Next, please. Harry, you know that this is my favorite, right?
Yes,
no bleaching, and I'm not going to say anymore. I am Jamaican, and I know that in the hip hop and dance hall culture, bleaching is seen quite frequently in Jamaica, and I know it's happening in Suriname as well. This was a real powerful statement. Bleach 1 and Bleach 2, shown both in our journey throughout the exhibition. Next, please. So Harry Kurt Nahar was given a Catalyst Award, and as my dear friend Monique just said, this award afforded Harry the opportunity to do the installation that you were just introduced to. Each year, Diaspora Vibe tries to give an award of $5,000 to 5 individuals. It is becoming harder and harder to raise the money. So those of you who listen, who have disposed of the income, buy the work, so we don't have to worry about our artists struggling to move from mid-career to maturity. That's what it's going to take. We have to get the work sold, then we have to get the work placed in a museum so that they can have this worldwide opportunity that Artsy is giving us. And I'm almost done. One more. So when I asked Harry, who on this journey from DC to South Carolina to Miami has been an influence on his work, and he said there's a young artist in DC, Yassine Fall from Senegal, who Yassine's work uses pots and earth. And I wanted to give a nod to this because one of the reasons why we work in community is that we borrow from each other and we use language from each other to infuse the work and make the work more powerful. So, Kurt, this is a tribute to you, showing you again the influence and many conversations. And I laughed. I hope Paula is not on this call. And I said, Kurt loves beautiful women. He's married to a beautiful one from Jamaica, and we know. Yes. So you know, see, there's also a beautiful Senegalese woman, and her work is really powerful. Hope I didn't get you in trouble, Kurt.
No.
Lastly, I think that's it. And so, folks, so what I wanted to hear is, we don't become masters overnight. Curators, what do curators do? We wear different hats. We advocate, we are project managers, we fundraise, we become friends, we become family, we are producers, we're writers, and all of this is done to push the artist from emerging to mid-career to maturity. It is with great joy, Harry, affectionately Harry, Kurt Nahar, that I offer this presentation to the world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosie. Thank you.
Yes.
So now we move forward to Dr. Pierre in the essence of time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Monique, and you're right. In the essence, in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want to start with a statement by Betty Saar, visual African-American visual artist, who stated in an interview, and I quote, "The slave ship imprint is on all of us," end of quote, and Suriname is no exception. Nahar carves out a space for himself in an established artistic tradition. He joins African and African-descended visual artists, novelists, and other creatives in keeping the practice alive, passing on the story of the forced dispersal of Africans from the continent. With his installation, he joins the plurivocal account of Africans in the New World. Nahar complicates the narrative by offering the Suriname/Dutch voice. There are several layers to his text: rituals and remembrance. Rituals of remembrance are the subtext to his account. He picks up the resistance storyline. He chronicles the central role played by African women on the plantation and in the movement of resistance to slavery and enslavement. So, what are the points of connection between the Nene rituals and the African-based tradition of literature, film, painting, sculpture, photography, videography, and installation art? So I have 5. Okay, again, in the interest of time, I'm going to, be short. So the first one is the slave ship motive. The second one, and yes. So again, remember what I indicated. Kurt is, joining a tradition here. So I briefly would like to call some artists, African descended artists, who also whose work touches upon the slave ship motive. So one is from Jamaica, Laura Facey, and I have 3 slides. This is the first one. Second one. Next slide, please. Next, this is the second from Facey. The third one. Next, with the African American artist Mark Redford. Next slide. Cuban Manuel Mendide. Next slide, please.
Mendide. Yeah.
From Trinidad and Tobago, Christopher Cozier. Next. Next. Then we also have African American Malcolm Bailey. Next, from Benin, Dominique Zimke. Another African American, Tony Scott. Afro-British, Isaiah Julian. Next.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Haitian American, Edouard Duval Carrier. Next. So in addition to the slave ship motive, we also have the African or diasporic folk tale, this idea of the flying African, which, there's this story circulating in the diaspora about Africans and enslaved who came here. And usually we connect Igbo in the United States, Igbo landing to this story. But there's also songs. I think of the South Carolina story. All God's children have wings. He uses the same the same metaphor. Okay, the idea that Africans, rather than submitting to enslavement and slavery, turn around and walk back to Africa. So symbolically, this is also present in Kurt's, installation with those Africans, who deliberately stayed in the hold of the slaver and as a result died. But this is based on the belief that they're going to go back, they're going to migrate back to Africa. The third points of connection is asserting the right to be or resistance. And what is important here is the idea, that's what Nahar does, insist on the idea that Africans resisted every step of the way, from the point of capture to the trek, to the hinterlands, to the coastal areas, to the waiting period in the barracoons, to the boarding of the slave ships, to the middle passage, to the seasoning period in the Caribbean, and then the dispersal in the plantations. The death, on the one hand, of the Africans who locked themselves up in the hold of the slave ship Leusden, and the survival of those who remain on deck with the crew, on the other hand, illustrate the fact that resistance meant different things to different people. Resistance took different forms: armed revolt, mutiny during the Middle Passage, poisoning the masters and the cattle on the plantation, suicide, infanticide, marooning, breaking the work tools, and showing up late to work. But staying alive, which a group of those 664 Africans chose to do, defying the odds was also a form of defiance. The same enslaved individuals resisted at times and surrendered at other times. Their decision was always governed by that one question: if I choose to either poison or run away, whatever I choose to do, what will happen to my family and friends? Both points of connection is remembrance/memory. And the last one is ritual or memorial, which I connect to conjuring, shamanism, and root working. Nahar, the shaman, uses the illustration as a conduit through which he helps us viewers connect. The installation is the medium through which we are able to travel time and space. This is made possible through the presence of ritual objects, candles, bottles of alcohol, calabashes, flags, the clay vessels, the clay ground, the nails, rice or salt, the ear of corn, the flower petals, the writings, the roots, the inverted cross, and the red grape. All these objects and the suspended calabashes convey into the installation a sentiment of cosmic trance and levitation, where one hovers between the earth plane, the underworld, and the overworld. Nene Rituals is a summary of the African concept of time. It is not linear, but cyclical. The past, present, and future are interconnected. The deities watch over the living and future generations that are yet to be born. Thank you.
Well, that was pretty amazing.
Yes.
Or do you want to say something, perhaps? I'm very sorry that in the video where you spoke in the film, that the sound was not there. So
Yes.
maybe you would like to say something.
First of all, I would like to thank all of you to have this conversation on this kind of level, and also thanks to Ms. Rosie and her organization behind her and us, because I would like to thank them, especially because it is a very very important for us artists to get an opportunity to travel outside our own familiar home, and thanks to the friendship between Ms. Rosie and Ms. Monique, and I came to learn. I came to learn more family, like Dr. Alex, and all over the Caribbean, that had enriched my practice along those years gone by. And it is true that traveling through time, and especially traveling through those Caribbean landscapes, that I start recognizing my history and searching for my identity became much clearer. And Mr. Rosie talked about how I work. So I like to use all kind of objects. Normally I'm not invited into other people, family members at home, because they know certain things are are missing at the end of my
You eat too much?
yes. But I would very much like to thank Ms. Persona Morrison,
Yeah.
and especially belated Mr. Cecil Cooper and
Yeah.
Ms. George, because it is because of those teachers, and also the ones from Nola Hatterman. I don't need not to forget that part, especially my former director, Nene Rituals class, that allowed me to grow spiritually, but also through what I am today as a practitioner of this wonderful art.
Kurt,
What I'm, yes.
the work is amazing. I
Yes.
mean, what a journey! And Rosie walked us through, through it. From the first time I got exposed to your work in this, masterpiece here. The question is, can you walk us through the creative? How do you create such an installation piece?
Right.
Yes, it is. It all started back in the days with, if I remember back through memories, first started out at Namanlia College, where I met as a stranger. I met Michael Elliott, who was a dear brother of mine, and another a young friend that really opened our doors for me, Keisha Costello, who now lives in London. And because I couldn't return home, I needed to explore the island, the beautiful island of Jamaica, more and more. So most of the time, especially in the summer and also during art classes, my fellow student, Keisha Costello, brought me to Port Royal Beach, where she would search for her own materials back then, because when you are at such a big school and resources are not there, you are pushed towards other types of finding materials to work with. So that is how my mind is kind of get functional, and that had a lot of to do with my process, because coming from a Dutch-speaking place, entering an English-speaking place, it's very difficult. Sometimes people might see it different, but I've always found, I always, how you call it, found it nice to, not nice, but very strange why I could adapt to the Jamaican patois more, how you call it, I could adapt to that more easily. And after 6 months, I was surprised myself that I could speak it fluently, and that triggered me along the way. And it was how you call it, many years later, when through the ice trips, that things fall into places. When through being together with you guys, traveling to Guadeloupe many times, traveling to New Orleans at the John Mitchell Art Foundation, traveling through Jamaica, where I start, how you call it, recognize that language is something very special. So I found through digging in my past experience at Namelli that I found very fascinating that the language that we have that in common, because certain words, that the Jamaican people speak are very similar to our own Shanantong. What we when we are growing up, we were not allowed to speak that language at home, and that still now sometimes when I speak that language, um, is not a common thing. So that what admired me when I hear the Jamaican patois. I felt right at home, and now married to
Yes.
one of them. And when when through time I entered the space of my wife home, um, sometimes I ask myself why things are spiritually happening to me, totally strangers, ending up on a beautiful mountain high up. So that started me thinking, and that is a big pool that gave me an inspiration to that lead me to this kind of body of work.
Harry, as I look on the installation, and I have it on my screen as well, a different view on my screen. This installation is almost like an altar. Well, it is an altar, right?
It's an altar,
It is
yes.
an altar, and in the Caribbean analysis, everyday ordinary analysis of this art piece, people would say it looked like voodoo, it looked like obia, it looked like you're trying to bring up all kind of spirits, right?
Yes.
But in truth and in fact, when you look at it through the lens of contemporary art, what I see is memory, rituals. The shape of it is the shape of this slave ship, which is why Alex took us through that journey, looking at Laura Face's work. The work doesn't have to be identical, folks. It is the imagination from the work. It is the pronouncement of the work that makes it so interesting. When we showed your calabash here, you're not supposed to touch your artwork, but tell people that look like me not to touch your artwork, and it is like saying touch the artwork, right?
Yes.
We knew that they were touching the calabash because every day we would walk through to turn on the lights at the gallery, and the calabash would be moved, changed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think that what they were looking at is they were looking at the carvings in it. And can you just mention for us whether it is decorative or whether this is a practice of the Maroons to carve these intricate, beautiful carvings on these calabash? And for my American friends, a calabash is a gourd. I'm teasing.
Yes.
So we don't say calabash in the United States, they say gourds. And in South Carolina, they have these huge ones. So, but in the Caribbean, we call it calabash. Tell me a little bit about the carving, please.
Yes, it is it's a tradition about from our Maroons here in Suriname.
Mm-hmm.
But why I especially used this calabash is when I studied or did some more research about the history about slavery.
Mm-hmm.
I came on the Dutch involvement in the slavery business, and when I returned on the internet to places like Fort Elmina, and where the Dutch took the African ancestors to be washed after a long journey. They let the slaves took last bath, and then also give to drink water. They also give them the calabash to drink
Right.
out
Right.
that. So
Right.
that triggered me into using this calabash,
Right.
because from what you always learn at Namelli, especially from teachers like belated Cecil Cooper and Miss Patrona Morrison, they always use phrases less is more. You don't
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to tell everything. So I am always triggered by things that uh, people don't like to speak about the dark side, about history. So
Yeah.
when I'm always fascinated in numbers, and talking through my good art colleague Miguel Kerfeld, who is also on a spiritual journey of his own. When we talk and we talked over the numbers grabbed my attention directly,
Yeah.
and it was about 646. So, but that was first of all, that didn't mean anything. But when I studied closely, I uh, suddenly say, okay, if you put two on top of the four, then the number become 666. And it's a term normally refers to evil spirits, and that what triggered me to really go after making into this piece. And uh, what money did for us is something, and the guidance through my gallery here that always support me into pointing out when looking at the big picture all the time.
Right.
uh, Sometimes it's hard that, yes, sometimes you are mature, but if you don't have the resources or have the money, you can dream as big as you want, but you don't have the money to go and buy
The
the
thing.
necessary
Right.
things
Right.
to make
Right.
the work. So the work put behind the scenes to be able to collect the award money really means a lot for us artists,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And normally we artists forget about that piece, that you don't stand up in the morning and somebody not somewhere else is helping you doing other work. It's a teamwork,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we sometimes we not see that, not appreciate that other people behind us, are as much as important to us to develop this work.
But Harry, I just want to say, I know we have to close, that this particular installation could go anywhere to any major fair. It could be at the Venice Biennale, it could be in London at the Tate, it could be at the Whitney. It is a very provocative, emotionally stirring, and I love the use of rum, because the spirits need the rum to travel from here to there, wherever here and there is. And we have a tradition of throwing the rum on the ground, sprinkling the rum around to
The
invite
same.
the spirits to come. And you've used that. You use light, you use the formation that is really a nod to art history, the formation of the altar. And then you have a painting inside the altar. I mean, that is actually, you're actually naming the spirit. So thank you for the work. I can't, both Alex and I need to come and see this work in Suriname. Hint, hint, hint. And
Absolutely.
and to be able to give you and Monique the well-deserved hug. And thank you for
Mhm.
this opportunity to highlight the work that we continue with hardship to do in Miami-Dade, where we live and work. But our hearts, my heart, is in the Caribbean.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yes.
Indeed, we
Thank
have
you.
comments. It's 2:05 already. We have time flew as we suspected it would. There was a question, but I think we're going to answer that by text. I will point it out to Kurt.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for participating. Thank you very much to everybody who's watching now and who will be watching later, perhaps when there is more time. I invite you to look at the film again. We will be reposting one with sound. And I invite you to visit the Atlantic World Art Fair. We have 5 more active days left. I hope that people around the world, but especially Caribbeans around the world, we need that village and we need that community. I hope that you will make an effort to learn about artists that are active and that you will make an effort to validate their work and start collecting. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you,
you.
Alex. And
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Monique and
you,
Kurt.
everybody watching.
Thank you.
And bye-bye.
Bye.
It was a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank
A
you.
real
Thank you,
pleasure.
everyone. Thank you,
Bye.
Dr. Alex, Ms. Rosie.
Hey, the